Dear friends, it is our duty to listen to the stories of Holocaust survivors. It is our duty to continue to tell their stories when they are no longer among us. And it is our duty to do whatever is necessary to counter the forces that threaten human dignity. It is our duty to remember and react. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Prime Minister. And I'd like to welcome our guests of honor in this first plenary session, 3 generations of Holocaust survivors who will be joining us on stage. Dina and Jovan Reich, Tobias Rauet, Berith Kalander, Nadine Gerson-Flam. We will be talking in depth with them about their experiences, what they'd like us to take away from this forum, but also what they'd like us to take away from the work that many of them do every day and have done for decades to increase awareness of how to combat anti-Semitism and, importantly, how to educate people, sometimes directly going to school children, as you'll hear from our distinguished guests. Thank you once again to all of you. It's a pleasure being able to talk directly to those both who've survived, but also who can educate us, which is really, I think, what's important today. Education and action. I'm going to start with Tobias. We talked a little bit earlier off stage. You go directly to schools, you visit schools, you're a Holocaust survivor, you've been spending the last decades in Sweden, going to the youngest of the young. Yes. What do you tell them, and what would you like politicians gathered here today to know about your work and how they can use it to further this cause?
When it comes to politicians, I have a special message. First and foremost, politicians are leaders. That means whatever you say, whatever you do, has an impact. As lawmakers, they can protect all human beings' right to exist and to have respect. But also the role of models to take stance in every life. They have to live as they learn. But of course, we all have the responsibility for our actions. Never underestimate that every word counts. My life shows that it starts with words and it ends with murder. I think about the little boy in the ghetto that I was. And if I could speak to him, I would tell him to not to give up. So this is also my message to the leaders here today, that don't give up. Please.
Dina and Jovan, the importance of acting is something that we brought up as well. How do you make sure that promises and pledges become action?
It's a teaching for me. It's a teaching of a school.
And in Dina,
how
do promises become action? how do you combat concretely the scourge of anti-Semitism, of racism, of all forms of discrimination and in everyday life?
In everyday, we are visiting schools and talk to students, and we have always, after our lecture, we have a discussion with them. And this discussion is very important for them and for us. In this discussion, we can understand how much they did understand of what we taught to them. We have different lectures. One of them is about our childhood during the Holocaust. We are talking together, parallel, two lives during the Holocaust. And the other is about the good people of the Holocaust. That's also one.
The good people, the helpers.
Yeah, who helped us to survive. Because
why is that important? Why?
This is important to show that in these dark times, there were very good people who helped us. And I don't know if you know, if I told to somebody in the school, yes, for all the students, there is a theory according which that for a child to survive, a Jewish child to survive the Holocaust, it was necessary for at least 10 people to be at the right place, at the right time, and to risk his life, and some of them even the family's life. And if some of them was missing, the child was killed.
You need a network. You need also luck. You need the right place, the right time, and the right people. And you speak of parallel lives, Jovan. This backpack that you carry. Can you explain what that means?
Yes. You don't see, but I have a big backpack on my here, and I'm carrying all my kids' family, mother, father, brother, everybody, and all these concentration camps. I cannot count them already. I survived, but it's here. It is not to forget. They who are killed have to be proud with my life and what I am doing all my life. And they are maybe laughing that they're somewhere. So we have to go and tell and help you, because you have also your problems. Everybody has a backpack, more or less heavy. So we have to help each other.
And you carry it your whole life. Prime Minister, you've heard now from some of our participants. What are you taking away from this?
Well, exactly what their message is, that it's up to all of us to do something and to decide to be good. I mean, we're all human beings. We're all human beings. Some of us believe in different religions, some do not believe. Some are born in other parts of the world, some are born here. We have different color of our skins, different backgrounds, but we're all human beings. And that's what this is all about. It boils down to we're human beings, and then we treat each other as human beings.
But as we heard from Tobias, politicians have the ability to act and to implement policy. Not all of us have that ability. What do you do with that power?
First, you also have a power in your job, and I think you're using it, and I think it's good. But yes, we do have the ability as politicians, and that is why we've gathered here today. And that is why we asked also leaders to present what they can do. This is a pledge. And when we do so, we also make sure that it is followed up. It's up to us to take these decisions, what we can do, but also to follow up. So after these pledges, next year when Sweden is the presidency of the IRA, we will have a good opportunity to follow up. And there's another message that I would like to send, and this is that we can make pledges here as countries, as organizations, but we need to take that further. We need to make pledges in schools, in enterprises, in authorities, so that we have a broad aspect of this. And if we all make these pledges, we're going to see some results.
Thank you, Prime Minister. Berith, you're the child of a Roma survivor.
Yes.
Very much targeted during the Holocaust. What message do you have for participants today?
I take it from like a school perspective. So if we first look upon what the curriculum says in history, teaching in history should aim at pupils developing not only the knowledge of historical context, but also the development and historic consciousness. And what I think of is that the school has an important role to educate and to give knowledge about how the two world wars began, but it has also a very important part to give knowledge about the Holocaust. This weekend, I looked in 2 history books, grade 9, the last year at the compulsory school in Sweden. And both of the books was very much information about the First World War, the Second World War, and then we come to the Holocaust. And it was like 2 pages with that informed about the ghettos, that informed about the Jewish Holocaust. And now I have to quote. And it stood like this. Of the 6 million of Jews that were killed, half of them died in extermination camps. And here we come. Furthermore, the Nazis killed 500,000 of Roma people and tens of thousands of homosexuals. End of quote. That, it was like a sentence of 14 words that described the Roma's Holocaust. I talked to 3 of my colleagues, history teacher, and I asked them, how much do you take up with the pupils when it comes to the Holocaust? And they say, oh, we try to talk about it. We watch Schindler's List. I come from the north of Sweden, so I live in Piteå, so it's quite high up. So they don't have the ability to go to Auschwitz because it's too far away. But they say when it comes to the Roma Holocaust, they have to go to Living History Forum to look for information. So my question to you is, we must have more information about the Roma people's Holocaust in the history books for our pupils. They have to learn about our Holocaust. And one thing more. My mother and her cousin were the only 2 Roma girls that came to Sweden. Although Sweden from 1914 to 1954, they didn't let Roma people come in. So how they came, it's a mystery. Maybe they lied, maybe people looked the other way. But I find I found an interview that they had made with my mother in 1964, and she says, we were 3 Roma girls that came to Sweden, not 2, 3. But I don't know who the third one was.
Thank you so much for that. And there's a common thread here, talking to children in schools.
Yeah.
All our participants believe this to be an important first step. Nadine, you're the grandchild of a Holocaust survivor, and you have, with some of your friends, established an initiative to raise awareness. Can you talk to us about that?
Yes, so 8 years ago, my childhood friend Adina and I founded an organization called Zikaron. And Zikaron means remembrance in Hebrew, and it symbolizes our mission that the Holocaust should never be forgotten. So what we do is that we have lecturers that travels across Sweden and offers free of charge lectures to junior high schools and high schools in Sweden from 3rd and 4th generation survivors. And this is a way for us, and we're really trying to continue from the amazing work that you have done. You survivors, you have tirelessly been lecturing about the Holocaust for years. We're doing our best to continue, but it's of course tough work.
I hope to continue many years.
Yeah, and we hope so too, of course. And
There's an exhibit where we can learn more about your organization.
yes,
Yeah, and that the Prime Minister, I think, you're very much interested in learning more about Zikaron as well.
Very much so
Yeah.
indeed. No, it's a great job. And that's what we want to achieve also. Never stop telling. Never stop telling.
So there you have it. Now, all of you basically are saying we need to talk to kids. What's the importance of that? If I could go back to you, Dina, this is where it starts, right? And if you can address the problems at that early stage, what kind of, do you think, difference does it make when people get older?
I don't understand the question.
Or Jovan, I could ask you as well. You talked about the backpack. You share your experiences with the younger people in schools.
You know, if we are going after retirement, we work all the life after retirement, we came back to our childhood. And then we understood that our experiences are important, not only for us, but for everybody. So we are going to meet young students, pupils, and so on, and they are very, very thankful. They are very interested, and they are very stimulating because they are learning much about their life, and hopefully not about the future. So we have to do for everybody, for them, for their children and their grandchildren.
And absolutely. And so there have been recordings made of the stories of Swedish Holocaust survivors, and those are also, for all of you, there is a very interesting set of exhibits that you can visit out in the common hall there. Tobias, how many hours did you spend recording this?
I was in the studio about 8 hours per day, you know, but we were filming somewhere between 10 and 3 o'clock in the afternoon.
Wow.
Continuously for a whole week.
Why is it important to have this on tape?
It's important as a part of education for the children to know what can happen if we don't respect each other.
But
because we are all equal. There is no difference between us.
we're seeing anti-Semitism and many forms of racism on the rise, though, in some Western democracies. Why do you think some of this work hasn't necessarily had the impact you have wanted it to have?
Look, I was quiet until I was 56 years old. I came out from the war when I was 9. And I was quiet up to 56 years. Then I heard a denier, Robert Faurisson, on the Swedish television. And he told me that the Holocaust never existed. But to me, he said something else. To me, he said that my life was a lie. I didn't have any cousins. I didn't have any family that were murdered during the Holocaust. And then I decided when I will be 60, I will retire in advance. And I will use my life to give lectures about it. And I have done it now for 25 years.
I want to thank all our participants because this has been absolutely emotional for me, hearing from survivors, the grandchildren of survivors, the children of survivors, just as we as journalists report on the horrors that are still unfolding in so many parts of the world. And thank you so much for bringing awareness to how we can find solutions. Prime Minister as well, thank you so much. And I hope all of our delegates and participants will take this message away with them as they continue their discussions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mi baš nismo bili, nismo baš bili